Problem 16. Tori's mathematics test had 75 problems, 10 arithmetic, 30 algebra, and 35 geometry problems. Although she answered 70% of the arithmetic, 40% of the algebra, and 60% of the geometry problems correctly, she did not pass the test because she got less than 60% of the problems right. How many more problems would she have needed to answer correctly to earn a 60% passing grade? So in this question, we need to find out what score she got for the arithmetic, algebra, and geometry questions, add them up, and then find the difference between her score and the 16% passing grade threshold. So, 10 arithmetic questions, and she got 70% of them right, which means she got 7 arithmetic questions right. For algebra, there were 30 questions, and she got a dismal 40% right, so she gets 12 questions right in algebra. And for geometry, she got 60% right. And this equation may look hard, but we can just multiply 35 by 2 and divide 0.6 by 2 to obtain 70 times 0.3, which goes to 21 questions. And this adds up to 40 questions out of 75. And now we need to find the 60% threshold. 7.5 is 1/10 of 75, and that times 6 is, let's see, 45. And 45 minus 40 is 5, so the correct answer is B. Problem 17. Problems 17 and 18 and 19 refer to the following. At Central Middle School, the 108 students who take the AMC 8 meet in the evening to talk about problems and eat an average of 2 cookies apiece. Hansel and Gretel are baking Bonnie's Best Bar cookies this year. Their recipe, which makes a pan of 15 cookies, lists these items: 1½ cups flour, 2 eggs, 3 tablespoons butter, 3/4 cup sugar, and 1 package of chocolate drops. They'll make only full recipes, not partial recipes. Hansel can buy eggs with a half dozen. How many half dozen should he buy to make enough cookies? Some eggs and some cookies must be left over. So, first of all, we need to find the amount of cookies. Then, we need to find the amount of recipes that they will make. Then we need to find the total amount of eggs. And finally, we need to find how many half dozens they need to buy. So, there are 108 students taking the AMC 8. And they each consume an average of 2 cookies. So, they need to make 216 cookies. And 216 divided by 15 doesn't produce a whole number. But 14 recipes will not cut it, since that's only 210 cookies, and they need to make 216 cookies. So they'll have to make 15 recipes, and although there are 9 too many cookies, it did say that some cookies may be left over. So if they're making 15 recipes, they need to buy 15 times 2 equals 30 eggs. And in terms of half dozens, it divides perfectly. 30 divided by 6 equals 5. Before I get into this problem, I just want to give you a bit of trivia. This problem is the second in a set of 3 problems, and you can use the results of the previous problem in the next problem. And this has been going on from 1998, and it would continue going on until 2003. So, without further ado, problem 18. The first 3 lines are the same, but then there's a new problem. They learn that a big concert is scheduled for the same night, and attendance will be down 25%. How many recipes of cookies should they make for their smaller party? Okay, so we know there are 216 cookies from the last problem, and that means all you have to do is multiply that by 0.75 because there are less students. So we just need to divide 216 by 4 and then multiply it by 3. So that's 54, and then we multiply 54 by 3. And now we still need to find the amount of cookies recipes. And how we do that is we find the biggest number in which multiplied by 15 is either greater than or equal to this number, because we need to find at least 162 cookies, but we can still leave partial amounts of cookies left over. So 11 times 15 is 165, and we can't go any lower, as there are only 3 excess cookies, so we only have to make 11 excess cookies. E is the correct answer. Problem 19 is the last problem in this 3-problem series, and we already know the first 3 lines. The drummer gets sick. The concert is cancelled. Hansel and Gretel must make enough pans of cookies to supply 216 cookies. There are 8 tablespoons and a stick of butter. How many sticks of butter will be needed? Some butter may be left over, of course. Well, we know from problem 17 that there's originally supposed to be 15 recipes, and in this case, that means that there are 15 times 3 equals 45 tablespoons of butter that is needed. And there are 8 tablespoons in a stick of butter, but we can't buy partial amounts of sticks of butter, so we can't buy like 5.7, and we're gonna have to round up. So 8 times 5 is 40, which is not enough. 8 times 6 is 48, which is enough, so you need 6 sticks of butter, which is B. Problem 20. Figure 1 is called the stack map. The numbers tell how many cubes are stacked in each position. Figure 2 shows these cubes, and Figure 3 shows the view of the stacked cubes as seen from the front. Which of the following is the front view for the stack map in Figure 4? Okay, so given this graph, we need to figure out how it looks. And for the first column right here, there's a 1 in front of a 2. And it would look like this. Of course, this is how it looks from a side view, but if you looked at it from a front view, it would look the same as if you just put 2 cubes on top of each other. And for this next column, the 3 cubes completely obscures the 2 cubes. And for this last column, the same logic that we applied in the first column applies to the third column, making you see 4 cubes in this column. Adding it up, there are 2 cubes in the first column, 3 cubes in the next, and 4 cubes in the last one. And this is exactly what we see in B, which makes it the right answer.